Today we sat down with Mattress Hub co-founder as well as current Sedgwick County Commissioner Ryan Baty. He told us many awesome stories about his experiences in the business world as well as what's going on in local politics today. We greatly enjoyed this one and we hope you do the same.
All right, we're up. Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to come speak with us.
Yeah, fellas, this will be fun. I'm enjoyed it. Appreciate the opportunity.
You know, I'm a jealous man if you get to hang out with Joe Walsh.
Yeah, that dude, I think he told me he's 78, I think he told me. So he pulls in, it's a wild story, because I actually met him about 3 months ago when he first came and announced that VetSaid was going to come here. And I'll be honest, I can say this now, I didn't really know a whole lot about Joe Walsh. I knew he was an Eagles guy. That wasn't my brand of music, but my dad was a big Eagles fan. And we pull up to Interest Bank Arena, that Mayor Lily Wu and I, and his publicist met me, who's his son. It's like a media relations person, met me, and he says, he knew everything about me. He had done his research. He knew a baseball career, business career, political career. He knew podcasts I'd been on. And I was like, oh my gosh. And come to find out, they were just doing their research. They don't want Joe Walsh taking a picture with some freak Nazi crazy nut job, right? Sure. So they had done the scouting report basically to make sure that if I was going to be in any pictures with Joe Walsh, that I was a decent human being. And then Joe comes out, man, and the most courteous, humble, kind human being. He was a sweet man who really has a wonderful organization with VetSaid, like really empowering local organizations across the country that does work with veterans. He's a true American hero, man. He was a wonderful human being.
That's so awesome. We both love the Eagles. We grew up on them, and they've got so many great songs. It's amazing that he is from Wichita.
Yeah. East High, right?
Yep. Yes. Yep. And I'll tell you what he did. We named a street after him. And just talking to him on the side, he was talking about his mom and talking about how he didn't know his dad, who was adopted, but didn't know his dad, but he was just talking about his mom and how wonderful his mother was. And his mom wanted him to play the classical piano. And he made a joke on the side with me, and he goes, people that play the piano, they don't get streets named after them. That's only guitarists. Just a good dude, man. And so it was a real treat. They raised a ton of money and supported some local organizations, and we were really blessed by having him here.
That's great.
It's just funny thinking guys like that walk the same streets that we walk.
Totally cool.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, literally, in just the humility. And he just striking up a conversation. His wife was really, really gracious. It was just a wonderful experience. And yeah, man, I'd post pictures hanging out with Joe Walsh and everybody's going bananas. I was like, this guy's a real deal, man. He's a legend.
I know. What do you think that means for Sedgwick County now that he's had his VetSaid? Like, that was such a big deal. How do you think that's going to impact Sedgwick County?
Well, I'll tell you where the direct impact is two things. One, it raises awareness to the issues of veterans and these organizations. The other is the funds were raised went directly to some organizations here doing big work. One organization in particular is CanVets. CanVets is a local organization. They do a lot of work in regards to particularly homeless veterans, but veterans that are in need with amenities and different just basic household things. And they wrote them a really nice check to help empower this organization that is in town and will continue doing this work. So Joe Walsh, this organization raised a lot of awareness for the issues that matter for veterans, and then they empowered some local organizations that are doing work. But he really blessed us, man. And I hope he comes back, and I hope he does this same concert again in multiple years to come.
That's so awesome. That's great.
Yep.
You have a incredible story. It's a perfect display of American entrepreneurial spirit. So you were 24 years old. You took a chance into the mattress business.
Yeah.
Starting the Mattress Hub. From sleeping on a friend's floor to showering at the local YMCA to working 70 hours a week. What was the vision that you saw that enabled you to endure those difficult times?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I appreciate that question because we're 20 years in now to the mattress industry, and you see what you do now. But there was a really humble beginning, and it didn't start with mattresses. Obviously, it started for me. It was baseball, and then baseball. When I retired in 2005, come back, I was literally going to law school. I was going to go back to KU. I was living in Lawrence. And I was working at the Dole Institute of Politics, studying for my LSAT when I go to law school. And I met a guy in the mattress business. I was down here in Wichita working out at Genesis Health Clubs. It was Christmas break. Here, it's all my family's from Wichita. I grew up in the Wichita area. And I met a guy in the mattress business. And somehow, some way, this guy talked me into not going to law school, not going into the debt. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was really in an identity crisis after baseball. I was like, well, what do I do? I guess I'll just go to law school. That seems like a nice career path. I really didn't want to practice law. I was interested in law. I just really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I was an easy sell at 24 years old, 25 years old, for a guy to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm importing memory foam beds. Let's start some stores together. And I wasn't married, had no kids, wasn't even dating anyone at the time. So I could make that sort of investment of my time because I could do it. If I tell people all the time, and a lot of young entrepreneurs, if I was married with kids, there was no way I'd be able to make the sacrifices it took to build Mattress Hub from the ground up. I just wouldn't be able to invest that. I wouldn't have the bandwidth to invest that kind of time to do that. So it was perfect timing, a perfect season of my life. And we opened up 27 stores across 3 states. Very humble beginnings. We did this bootstrapped from the ground up and grinded this thing through. And I still have Mattress Hub to this day. And it's a wonderful company with wonderful people. And it's richly blessed my life just in relationships. Most of the people that work for me at the Mattress Hub have been with me 15, 16 years. We are very active in the second chance community. About a third of my workforce comes from sober living or second chance opportunities. So it's kind of a ministry for us in that regard. So the Mattress Hub has been a really big part of my life, and I hope it will be a big part of my family's lives for generations to come.
Do you remember what he specifically told you to get you to buy into this idea?
Yeah, I don't remember what he specifically told me, but I remember how I specifically felt vividly. And we're talking, and as he's pitching me this idea, and remember, I didn't really want to go back to school. I was kind of done with school, baseball. I had an injury. I had concussions and had to retire and from an injury. So I was really in this strange season of who am I and what do I do with my life? And he's pitching me this idea. He was importing memory foam beds, totally random. 10-inch beds, 5 inches of memory foam, over 5 inches of base foam. He was drill pressing it. So it was ventilated. It was really cool. He's telling me this, and that meant nothing to me. I mean, I didn't even know what kind of bed I slept on. I slept in a bunch of hotels in the minor leagues. Like, that's all I knew.
And floors.
Yeah, awful, yeah. So he's pitching me this, and I remember thinking, it was like a light bulb. It's like, man, everybody needs a mattress. And I started thinking, well, how many mattresses are in every household? Well, every household has 3, and about 75% of people really don't like what they sleep on, and we're a chronically sleep-deprived country. And I began thinking, my goodness, like there is a model here because everybody needs what we're selling. It's high retail, high margin. Like this is a really cool opportunity. And I was an easy sell because I saw the vision. And we were selling mattresses out of a kiosk at Town West, believe it or not.
Wow.
Dude, and you think about Town West and what came of Town West, you're like, are you kidding me? It used to not be like that, man. You remember like the little Chinese place in the food court there at the mall? Town West used to be the spot, man. And we were selling out of a kiosk and then moved into a store, and then one store turned to 2 stores, and 2 stores turned into 5, and 5 to 27 across 3 states, man. And it was wild. And I could tell some stories for days about the things I've seen in entrepreneurship and business, but that's how it started, man. But I remember how I felt. I saw the vision, I saw the idea, and I thought it was an opportunity.
Had he started selling before you?
Yeah, he was about 10 years older than me. He had a history in furniture retail in particular. So that type of history gave credibility to it. And again, it wasn't as much that it was a great brand or in business and in entrepreneurship, if you can solve a problem, you have a business model. You know, if you look at something and say, okay, there's a gap between product and solution, there's a gap. And if I can present a gap finder, a gap solution, if I can solve a problem, I have the basis of a business. And I saw that there was a big need, that the industry felt really slow and, welcome to bed and kind of soft. And I was like, man, if we took a car lot energy approach in the mattress business, we might be able to create some buzz. We put a man in a sheep costume, call him the Cheap Sheep, and we were giving away TVs and massage chairs when you bought beds. We were giving away iPads when the iPads came around, and we were just like, we're going to try something different and go different, and it resonated with people. But again, if you can solve a problem, you'll always have a business model.
What do you feel when you look back on that time? It's being so far removed, and it obviously was a success.
Yeah.
Do you look back on that and think, man, that was fun, kind of, just because it was so wild and
Yeah, man.
unpredictable at that time.
Well, we talked about, or you had mentioned, for the first 2 years of the business, I had some friends that had friends in Tulsa, and we were opening the Tulsa market. I literally threw a mattress on their floor. They had just got out of college, and they painted houses during the day and played poker at night. So it was crazy bananas. And I mean, just their lifestyle they were living. I remember laying there at night, and you could hear the mice in the cupboards, and they'd shower in the morning and go leave. And the plumbing was so bad in this place that I would be standing in their standing shower water with all the things floating around in it.
Oh, man.
This is what I did for 2 years to start this business, and didn't take a paycheck most days, most months. It was really, really hard. So when I look back, there's an immense amount of pride, immense amount of just gratefulness. 80% of businesses don't make it through the first 2 years.
Right.
And the businesses that do get by, 90% don't make it to year 10. And here we are 20 years into this thing. And there's been multiple times we almost lost it and had to bootstrap this thing and grind back through it. And so it's pride. It's just gratefulness. It's humility. It's thankfulness. There's a scripture that talks about do not despise the days of humble beginnings. So when I look back, I see these humble beginnings. I have an immense amount of pride and gratefulness. And to know the people that walked with me in that season, not just friends and family, but the people, my employees, my staff that believed in it and believed in me. And we went through some hellacious times, man, some hard times. And they never abandoned ship. They believed in the vision. They believed in me. They supported me. And when you have those sorts of relationships, man, it's when you get in the trench with people on that level, it forms a bond that's hard to explain. But they're not just family to me. I feel like a burden of responsibility for their livelihood, and it moves me and motivates me in a way that's hard to explain.
How did you handle outside noise and doubt at that early stage? Because, whenever you stick your neck out there in something, people are going to talk.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you handle that?
Well, I think some of it, too, is my background in baseball. Baseball, I think, is a great learning tool. Sports in general is a great learning atmosphere for business and life. It was through baseball that I learned discipline. It's in baseball where I learned how to receive correction and coaching. Baseball taught me how to win and lose. In baseball, if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you hit 300, you're pretty good.
That's right.
Right.
So you
Puts you in the Hall of Fame.
That's it. Baseball, they're a strange beast, man. We're strange people. But I didn't learn those things in grad school. I learned those lessons in sports, and that was a great connector for me into business and life. But there's always noise. And sometimes the noise, when you think about the trajectory of a business, the first 2 years are just straight survival mode. You're just trying to survive. And in the midst of that, if you get through those 2 years and you start projecting another year, 2 years, it's not just about selling product. And it's not even just about selling your employees or your customers as to why your business has value. You're selling yourself too. It's like, okay, do I really believe this? Do I believe it enough to get me out of bed? Do I believe it enough to live on scraps for years to get this thing done and across the finish line and moving in a trajectory of success? There's always going to be noise. And if there's not noise, I'm not sure you're doing anything worthwhile. There's always going to be the hater. There's always going to be the peanut gallery. There's always going to be the doubt. There's always going to be self-doubt. And over again, I've seen businesses, they just quit too soon, man. There's something about endurance and resilience that the entrepreneur has to have. And when the noise comes, you just got to keep pushing, man. You got to push.
That's great advice.
That is.
That's great advice.
Because when you've succeeded and then you have a huge, like you said, then there's horrible struggles. Does the fact that you have already succeeded and you can, is that what gets you through those dips? Or where do those dips kind of take you to where you have to rebuild from them? Yeah,
that's a great question. I'll give you an example of a time in 2013. We were 8 years old. We'd had incredible highs, a season, a real harvest. But we had some things happen that had really been setbacks. We had 27 stores, 3 states. We had an embezzlement situation in our Oklahoma chain. My business partner got involved in a pretty serious gambling addiction that was rather well known here in the local area with a lot of business people here that got very involved in a big gambling ring. He was squarely involved in that, was indicted by the FBI on a personal level.
God, that was 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm. He was
time flies.
He was using business funds to pay off his personal debts. I wasn't aware of it. We had a Kansas City operation that was really struggling up there, and just it's a hard market. We had lost a tornado at the Joplin tornado. We lost our store there. Then our market manager passed away in Springfield. And in the interim, my wife and I lost a baby. So I'm driving down Mays Road. I'm in front of the Walmart at 21st and Mays Road. I'm actually on the phone with my CPA and my lawyer, who's basically saying, hey, you should consider, we think that your business is not going to make this. You should dissolve this organization, and there's ways that you can have exits, and we can try to liquidate assets and try to pay off some debts and work deals with landlords and such. And something happened to me that I thought would never happen to me, and I distinctly, and I can feel it right now as I'm talking about it, is I had a nervous breakdown. I had an anxiety attack. Now, I'm a baseball guy. Remember, you fail a lot in baseball. And when I used to think about mental health issues and anxiety and depression, things like that, I thought that was something that happened to other people. I never thought that could happen to me until it did. Just the pressures of life and business, tasting success, but then almost losing it all. And thinking about that time, we had about 100 employees and their families and trying to feed them. And I just broke under the pressure. And I pulled over in the Walmart parking lot and got out and canceled the call with my lawyer and CPA and got out of the car and was just shaking uncontrollably, vomiting, and was having an anxiety attack. And that started a period of me for about 10 months of true, incredible issues with panic attacks and anxiety and depression that I never thought could be me. I'd wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I would feel like there was something sitting on my chest and I couldn't breathe. And the only reprieve I could find was getting to my kitchen table. And for me as a Christian, it was studying the scriptures and prayer and worship. That was it. That's the only reprieve I could find. And that was 10 months. Didn't take a paycheck for 10 months. I lost about 85% of my life savings in that time period, just keeping our company afloat. I sold the Oklahoma chain, divested out of the Kansas City operation, went from 27 stores to 18 stores to 13 stores is where we're at today, just Kansas, because it was just me. I'd bought my business partner out, and we survived. And we almost lost it all, and we survived. So when you ask me, when I look back, when I don't just look back to the inception and the hard days, I look at the peaks and the valleys, and I remember distinctly how I felt in those seasons. And that's why when you look today and you say, wow, we have something really to be proud about, there's so much history in the background as to what you had to fight to keep it. And when you have to fight to keep something and its value is more than just tangible, it's more than just monetary, it's a deeply personal connection. But yeah, that was quite a season.
When you cut back to 13 stores, was it a slow realization that you would survive, or was there a certain point that hit where you're like, okay, I can do this here in Kansas with 13 stores?
There was always the hope, but there was this reality, this blaring reality that I was paying back the sins of a partner that I didn't do. Mm-hmm. I had to personally come out of pocket because he had personally guaranteed, and with the Mattress Hub signature and as a 50% partner in the Mattress Hub, he had guaranteed things with Mattress Hub credit that I didn't know he was doing. And there's always the lawsuit, and you can go sue him civilly and such. But if he'd lost everything, there's nothing to sue for. And these debts remained, and some of these were with vendors. So I had to pay those back out of my personal savings. And there's always the thought of, oh, this just isn't fair, and it wasn't. Or the anger, and I had a lot to be angry about. But ultimately, you have to just bear down and buckle through and the endurance and be resilient, because the company, the staff, and the vision needs leaders that are resilient in the midst of storms. They've got to be able to push through. So, man, there was always, every day I woke up and thought, I don't know if we can make it. I mean, there was a whole 10-month season where I didn't know if we were going to make it, but we did. Because every day you just get up, you put one foot in front of the other, and you keep grinding, and you walk in righteousness and light, and you do it with honesty, and you do it with an integrity. By the grace of God, man, we made it.
That is fantastic.
That's about as inspiring of a story as I've ever heard.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was wild. Yeah. I never want to repeat it again. That season, that 10-month season in particular, I never want to repeat it, but I can look back now and see the value in the season, that there's value in struggle, particularly for the entrepreneur. There's value in struggle. And man, I can go theologically and spiritually and talk about, there was some idolatry in my heart, man. I felt like God was carving some stuff out of my heart, and I had to right size some things in my own mind. it was during that time I was also doing ministry. I was an associate pastor at a church, and so I'm teaching through struggle and tribulation and things like that. At the same time, I'm living it and experiencing it. Never want to repeat that season, but I can look back and see the value in that season. I'm better because of it. My company's better because of it. But it was hard and it was struggle.
There's something about chosen suffering that prepares you for the unchosen suffering.
Yeah.
Like even a hard day, like working out every day, like choosing suffering, choosing to go through hard things prepares you for the unchosen.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is hard.
It is.
It doesn't matter if you're in business, if you're in marriage, it doesn't friendships. Like life is hard. But it's the endurance that creates maturity. And you mature in these seasons. Now, and you can choose the response. Some people fold up. Some people become worse. They become callous. They become hardened. And other people let the lesson teach them. And I had a great advice at one point in time. I had a business person say, "Hey, man, they can't eat you." And that sounds so simple, but it's so profound. It's like, hey, man, I was coming home every night to a wife that loved me, kids that loved me. I had my health. My wife had her health. The business was struggling because of decisions that weren't mine that I had to try to fix, but they can't eat me. I still had life. I had breath in my lungs, man. And that was what just like, hey, man, I'm going to keep things in perspective. And my wife was a bulldog in that time for me and continued to push me and continued to drive and continued to encourage. And they couldn't eat me, man. I still had my life no matter what came of the business. And sometimes when you have nothing to fear, the fear was the impact. The fear was pride even, letting this thing die. But the fear was, how is this going to impact the people that work here? That was the only fear. But I got to a point where it was like, I'm just going to push because I don't fear losing anymore. I don't fear losing. I want to win. I want this to work. I don't fear losing. It's not going to take my life. So I'm just going to keep pushing and to see what we can get out of this. And by the grace of God, man, it worked out.
Yeah, you're just playing with house money at that point.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
If you have your health, you can do anything. They say everybody has a million problems until they have a health issue.
That's it.
Then you have one problem.
That's it. I learned that a lot in ministry. I did 12 years of pastoral ministry, and I would see people that overnight would get news overnight of disease or get news overnight of the loss of a loved one. And that puts things in perspective. You're playing with house money. God has blessed me with so many things in business and with health that I'm just going to steward them well. And the way I encounter my business, the way I lead my business, it's worship unto God. That's how I view it. It's ministry for me, man. So I'm going to steward this well and go as far and as hard as I can and do it with excellence because it's worship unto my God.
Have you been able to implement any business lessons learned now that you're onto the political side of things on the county?
That's a great question. I always thought heading into it that there'd be a lot that business and politics and government had more things that were alike than I realized when I got there. Now let me clarify. There are attributes in business that I think are applicable to government. Modernization, reform, lean strategies, particularly the way you deal with staff that perform these services like public safety and public health, public works. Like there are business principles that are applicable to the way you lead organizations. But the heart of a business is profit, shareholder value. The heart of government is typically service and stewarding resources and tax dollars and finding that balance between how much revenue and tax dollars do you need to perform the service that's efficient and effective for the community. So there are principles that are applicable. I think what's helped me best in government was seeing modernization, looking at organizational strategies and saying, how do you modernize an organization? How do you make the pivots? Because government is not, there's no sense of urgency in government like there is in business. If I don't pivot in business, the market won't reward me, right? They reward me with sales. They reward me with customers. But if I don't pivot and I stagnate, well, I lose traction and momentum in a market. Government isn't compelled in the same way. You have to use government services where you want it or not. So they're not compelled to be efficient and effective sometimes. So I take that mentality and say, no, how do we create these organizations that are effective and efficient, that are pivoting and modernizing where they need to? And there's a lot of opportunities with that. I'll tell you, when I first got to the county, staffing is about 72%. And you think, well, is that really that big of a deal? Well, let me tell you the outplay of that. They had lost a third of their paramedics since 2019. You may say, is that a big deal? Well, response times nationally on EMS is about 8 minutes, and we were averaging 24 to 28 minutes at some parts in our county. Think about it. heart attack, a child drowning, or a child choking, a car accident. You want EMS there quickly.
Right.
That was a staffing challenge. 911 was at 60-some% staffing. So calling, having the worst moment of your life, you need someone that's able to pick up the phone that's sharp and ready to go and refreshed and ready, and they were at 62% staffing. The sheriff was down 120 deputies at the jail. No one will ever know, and the sheriff, he'll talk about it now, but he was about a week away from having to call the National Guard into the jail because he didn't have the staffing ratio per inmate to keep his insurance.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. Sedgwick County Fire, starting wage of a Sedgwick County firefighter was $14.60. And they're wondering, well, we're having staffing problems. I wonder why. I pay people at Mattress Hub warehouses that don't have driver's licenses $15. Starting wage was $14.60 at Sedgwick County Fire. ComCare was down 200 full-time employees in the middle of a mental and behavioral health crisis. So we see these practical needs, practical challenges, and the outputs. It's impacting people's public safety and public health. And I had to take strategies with my colleagues on the county commission, real strategies, as to how do we stabilize the workforce so the outputs are better. And we're at 94% staffing today. Things have changed. There's been big investment in that. But we've had to stabilize the workforce so we can stabilize the operations and have better outputs to the people in this community. So that's a business principle.
What have you specifically done to get those numbers back to where they should be?
The biggest thing was compensation, is they were under market, particularly if you look at their peers in government. If you look at the city of Wichita and Dewbey, those are two Class A cities. Sedgwick County government was way behind in staffing compensation. That was a big piece of it. Incrementally, over 3 years, we've put $80 million incremental wages into compensation to stabilize the workforce. The district attorney is the biggest catalyst that's seen stabilization, where he can keep lawyers in his office now that aren't going to private market. And you got to have that to have good justice in the community. So as compensation, some of it was also some practical things like paid parental leave, benefits coming into an organization to where people feel valued for what they're doing and the work they do. So a lot of it was compensation. Other of it was leadership. We had made some leadership adjustments in certain parts of the organization. It's just like running any other organization. And we have 3,000 people in 46 departments and 3,000 employees. It's a big organization, but they're doing an important work and important services. So you got to find ways to stabilize that staffing.
What a tall task cleaning up dysfunction in government is, even on the local level.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So now you're almost 3 years in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What lessons have you learned now that you've been in politics a decent while?
Yeah, I've learned a lot. You think about, I won the election in 2022, sworn in 2023. Here we are recording this in November 25, so I'll be up for re-election in 26. I've learned a lot. I've learned that nothing moves very quickly in government, for better or worse. I mean, we're not selling mattresses or tennis shoes or T-shirts, right? These are property tax dollars, and most of the things that we do are services. So this is really, really important that we take. Being prudent's important, but nothing moves quickly, and it's hard for me sometimes because I like to move quickly. The other thing that I see is that the biggest lesson is just the opportunity for reform. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. If I had a whiteboard right here, this would be fun, or we'd have your boy here pull it up on the thing, on the little TV screen. I wish we could. If I had a whiteboard right here and I put all the things that Sedgwick County government does on the whiteboard, and then I put a whiteboard next to it and I had all the things that our 20 cities do, you would look at those two whiteboards and you'd say, oh my God, look at all the overlap. Look at the redundancy, the duplicative costs. Look, there's not a better way to do all of this. And the answer is yes, is that we should be sharing more services. We should functionally consolidate redundant departments with our 20 cities so that we can be doing the work and not only becoming more efficient, but cost savings. Let me give you some examples. Sedgwick County government has animal control. Which city of Wichita has animal control? Why? I'll give you some other examples.
Do you think the devil's advocate would be outside of Wichita?
Yeah, certainly. I think that is part of it, but the citizens of Wichita are paying taxes to Sedgwick County government, just like the people who live outside the city of Wichita are paying taxes. They're paying the same taxes to the Sedgwick County government. The difference is the city of Wichita, the Wichita citizen. If you guys live in Wichita, you're paying your taxes to the county. Part of it goes to animal control. You're also paying taxes to the city of Wichita. Part of it goes to animal control. You're paying taxes to two different organizations to do the same service. Here's the prime example, and I get in trouble every time I say it. Fire. Sedgwick County government has the fourth largest fire department in the entire state of Kansas. Wichita Fire is the largest fire department in the state of Kansas. They co-respond, meaning there's a structure fire. You'll see a Wichita fire truck and a Sedgwick County fire truck on the same scene. They co-respond 6,000 times a year together. 15 to 18 times a day, you're going to have a Sedgwick County fire truck show up and a Wichita fire truck show up. There are times they'll have Wichita fire posts, firehouses, within 2 blocks away from a Sedgwick County firehouse. And it's like, what are we doing? We cannot find a better way to do this service and collaborate. We do collaborate a lot, but we couldn't consolidate this department to have one metro fire department, make more efficient services, have more efficiency in cost structure so we don't have the redundant costs. That's just one example of many. But we've done things that have worked. We do joint planning, Metropolitan Area Planning Department. That's a Sedgwick County joint operation, City of Wichita. No one would say that that wasn't the right move. Everyone says that's the right move. We do the same thing at the MABCD, the Metropolitan Area Builders and Construction Department. We've joined that together, merged that together. EMS. The county does EMS. One government does it on behalf of all 20 cities so that every city doesn't have to do their own EMS. Same with 911. So we need to get rid of redundant services where you're paying taxes to your city and your county to do the same service. That is up and down, man. All right, another example, parks. Sedgwick County government has a parks department. We have 2 parks that we typically manage, or one big park that we manage, Sedgwick County Park. It's in the middle of Wichita, who also has a park budget. And it's like, what are we doing here? Well, it's silly to me. So those are the opportunities when I look at, there's significant opportunities for reform, modernizing local government so it becomes more effective and more efficient.
Wow. So you were from 25th and Arkansas, right up the road from where I live and where we're at now.
Yeah.
So something I've noticed so I've been in Riverside, I bought in April 24, so about a year and a half. Something I've noticed, and it happened to me this morning, so I'll go to the gym when it's still dark, before work. And I was backing out this morning, and I saw a streak go by my rear view mirror. I'm like, what is that? I look out my driver's side window. It's a guy dressed in all black on a bike, pedaling up the street. What are you doing at that hour wearing all black, pedaling on the street?
Yeah.
Probably means you don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
You're checking car doors, peeking into windows. It may be a city issue. Has there ever been discussion about implementing more lighting on the streets here in the neighborhood?
It's interesting. So, that is a City of Wichita issue, the lighting. So in the county, we typically don't deal with things like that. Most of the county stuff we deal with is in unincorporated on lighting and things of that sort, the unincorporated parts, because the cities handle their own municipality in that. But that is a big topic of conversation I know the City of Wichita has on the lighting piece of this. Some of it is with Evergy, your electric provider. But lighting up areas, when you bring light into darkness, it illuminates things in ways to where darkness can't prevail. And there is a crime situation that is prevailing in the City of Wichita. Now, if you look at the 5 to 7 year track, violent crime in particular actually is not at its peak. But what's happening that's fueling some of this, there's 2 things fueling crime in the City of Wichita right now. One is that we have a significant drug challenge here. And the types of drugs that are in our market today are different than the drugs that when I grew up. The methamphetamine is different. It's a cartel meth, is what the sheriff likes to say. It's actually literally inducing a psychosis. It's rotting a hole in people's brain, the type of methamphetamine that's on our streets today. The other thing that's really causing challenges is the opioid addictions, the opioid drugs, particularly fentanyl, is significant here. That's a real challenge, and you don't just cold turkey quit opioid addiction. And if you don't have insurance, there's no medical detox options available in the City of Wichita right now. It's a whole other thing that I could talk about for days. But it's a challenge. And the other one is actually synthetic marijuana, K2. It's a significant challenge in our homeless population. It induces psychosis. Sometimes you'll see a homeless individual, 23, 24, 25, walking up and down the street in downtown, talking to the birds. Obvious mental health crisis. Many times that's not schizophrenia. That's a drug-induced psychosis. So my point in saying all that is what's generating a lot of the crime and fueling a lot of the crime issues that we're having here in the city is actually the drugs and the business of drug trade. And that's what's creating a lot of the violent crime that's happening. The other thing is it's actually inducing juvenile crime. There's some really lax laws in the state of Kansas on juvenile crime to where a kid can basically get caught with a gun illegally and they're not even going to spend a night in juvenile detention. The judges have no authority because of the sentencing guidelines. So what's happening is many of these drug dealers are actually, because the laws are so lax with juveniles, they're actually giving the kids the guns and employing them to do the drug deals. Because if a kid gets caught, he's only getting a slap on the wrist at worst. If an adult gets caught, it's a whole nother ballgame. So they're employing these children, these youth, especially teenagers, into the drug game, paying them handsomely to do it, knowing that there's not going to be any issues with these kids if they were to get caught in regards to retribution or regards to punishment. So it's a problem. If you look at juvenile crime in the city of Wichita, the numbers are off the hook, especially gun possession in the city of Wichita for kids. It's off the hook. And what's fueling a lot of this is the drug trade.
Do you think the drug trade is fueling the juvenile crime or more of the adult, down and out crime?
I think it's combined. I think it's absolutely combined. I don't think you can separate the two. If you look at just gun charges alone from 2016, a bill called Senate Bill 367 passed, which basically about 70% of the bill was good from the state, but the other 30%, they didn't want to incarcerate kids, juveniles. They felt like that had a bad impact on kids. What we've learned is juvenile crime is significantly out of control now because they are not getting any accountability for crimes that are being committed. And many of these kids know this. You'll have juvenile judges that will tell you, kids in the courtroom say, I know you can't do anything to me. They'll literally say this to the judge and the district attorneys. I know, and they're right because of Senate Bill 367. And what judges are asking for is they need an intermediate step with these juvenile offender kids. They need an intermediate step between juvenile detention and just sending you home. We don't do group homes anymore in the state of Kansas for juvenile offenders. That option was taken away. So basically these judges, because of sentencing guidelines and statute, just send these kids home and they're out and about doing the same thing that same night. So it's a real challenge.
Yeah. With the crime issue and the homelessness issue, that if any relatively big to major city has, this might be an unfair question, but what are one or two answers that you might have? Because it's such a huge issue and complex, and not everybody's the same. So it's hard to all encompass it with one solution. But what are some things that you would implement that you think might help this out?
Let me exasperate a little bit on one of the things you said, that not everybody's the same, and that's really important. If you look in the city of Wichita, we're estimating about 2,000 people are unhoused in the city of Wichita. About 80% of those individuals, they want help, and there's resources from the city and the nonprofit community that can get them help and get them housed, and they retain housing. About 80%. We do actually do a really good job for people that want help and want to access the resources. Where there are no answers, or what we simply call the subpopulation that we just call hardest to engage. And this is typically what you see in the downtown Wichita corridor. These are individuals, many of them have a significant mental health disorder. Many of them have a significant substance use disorder, an addiction. Many of them have an intellectual or developmental disability. And they are not engaging services. You could literally hand them a key to a house and they will not take it. They want to remain homeless. They're in a condition mentally many times where they don't know they need the help. This is a subset of the population. We're estimating 250, 300 people that we have no solutions for because we don't institutionalize in the state of Kansas. We have no solutions. And this subset of the population is growing.
What does institutionalize mean?
We used to do mental health hospitals to where you'd involuntarily get committed to a mental health hospital and a psychiatric hospital, and you live there. They don't do things like that anymore in the state of Kansas for a variety of reasons.
Do you think that would work?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. I think that it's not the perfect solution. But the challenge that we're facing now, in my view, this is my view only, and it's not the most popular view, and I get a lot of criticism for it. Some people want to clean up the homeless situation, particularly in downtown, because of the optic. It just doesn't look good for the city, and there's something to be said for that. A healthy community doesn't have people sleeping in corners and feces all over the sidewalk. That's not a healthy community. The optic isn't what moves me. What moves me to want to intervene is these are human beings. These are people. This is someone's mom or dad or son or daughter. Or
right,
brother,
someone's child.
This is a human being.
Yeah.
So watching someone live on a sidewalk or in or places where human beings should not be living, I'm moved to intervene because of the human side of it, not the optic side of it. So in mental health issues, We have elevated the mental health issues to such an extent that if you are in danger to yourself or others, we can actually involuntarily commit you for 72 hours to have evaluation. That's how serious we think about mental health issues. Our community has never elevated homelessness to a point of crisis to where it says, you know what, this isn't good. You're a human being. You may not know that you don't need this, but we are going to intervene to help you. It is not okay to sleep on the street. And so I don't know if I know the answer, but I know there's a subset of this hardest to engage population where we have no answers. And the community is grading government and nonprofit on that subset of the population. They don't see the 80% where they have a good story. They see this population that is creating issues in downtown Wichita in particular, and they see these people laying in these alleys and on the sidewalks, and the community thinks that we're failing in the effort because that's what we're being graded on. So, but we have no real answers for that subset. This is a really challenging problem.
Yeah, the community's in a good spot because they can point the finger and blame, but none of them have an answer either.
So we have, if you look at the things that are happening in our community right now, I campaigned on these issues, and all four of them, I call them the four legs of the stool, are all under construction right now. The first thing is we have a $100 million mental health hospital being built in South Wichita. Counties took the lead on that. That's a big deal. 104 beds, new psychiatric hospital. Haven't built a new hospital in the state of Kansas in 30 some years. We have one being built.
Wow.
That's happening. $100 million.
In the whole state of Kansas?
I haven't had one new built in 30 years, and we're building one now.
Good God.
The second thing that we're doing is we're expanding ComCare Crisis into a crisis intervention center to where we'll actually have medical detox options for people that have no insurance. We'll have involuntary assignment beds for people for observation to take pressure off Ascension and St. Joe. That's a $20 million project. We broke ground on that 3 weeks ago. The city of Wichita, in collaboration with all the nonprofits, have Second Light, the multi-agency center for homelessness. That's under construction right now. It'll be opened in March. A place where dozens upon dozens of nonprofits can come to the homeless shelter and offer services, supportive services. That's happening right now. And then the big question is, what's the workforce pipeline for all of this? How do we find workers to do the hospital? We needed a workforce pipeline. We have a $300 million biomed campus with KU and Wichita State being built in downtown Wichita right now. Those four things, roughly $550, $600 million, are all under construction right now today. So we're in this really tense middle to where we know what's coming, that we're really hopeful of the resources that are coming, but we're not there yet. It's all under construction. But I think there will be a day that they look at Wichita and the Sedgwick County area or across the country and say, that's the gold standard to how a community collaborates together for their mental and behavioral health challenges. I believe it. You see county, city, you see school districts participating, you see nonprofits, faith community, you see academic, all collaborating in those types of projects to produce something for this community. So I'm incredibly hopeful, but we're in this really hard season right now because these things are all just under construction and people need help.
Yeah, you guys are both right. It's such a complex issue, and I mean,
Yeah.
who knows what the right answer really is, but it's great to hear things are being done, at least to address it. Mm-hmm. On a brighter note, the last couple of years, it seems like property taxes have been a hot topic here.
Yeah, you should see my email inbox. Yeah, it sure has.
I bet.
I've heard you talk about fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
What's something residents often misunderstand about property taxes?
Well, a lot, and because it's very complex. At the baseline level, I think most residents don't understand when you get your property tax bill, you're going to see typically 7, 8, upwards, depending on where you live in the county, 10, 12, 13 different taxing jurisdictions on there. The biggest misperception, this is a bit selfish on my end, is many people, they see that it's the Sedgwick County appraiser doing the valuations and the Sedgwick County clerk that sends out the notices and the Sedgwick County treasurer that sends out the bills. And they think it's just the property tax is just Sedgwick County government. You're raising my property taxes. Sedgwick County government is actually only about 20% of your total property tax bill. Your city is more, your school districts, cemetery districts, bonds, all those different things are on there. The biggest misconception is people that don't understand what their property tax bill is made up of. I will tell you, I think in the state of Kansas and in our region in particular, I think we're too dependent on property taxes. Property taxes are a very stable form of revenue for local governments. School districts in particular are dependent on property taxes. So I understand the need and the basis of property taxation. I just think that we've met some diminishing returns. I think when you pay property taxes on your house, as it's gone up, as your valuation has gone up, you know what else has gone up? Your property insurance has gone up. You know what else has gone up the last 5 years? Well, almost every good and service that you purchase, from your groceries to your gas to your personal insurances. I mean, the clothes that you wear, the mattresses that you buy. Inflation has really settled into the market on all goods and services. Your property tax is going up, your property insurance is going up. What has likely not gone up with it is your income.
Right.
At least at the same pace.
Seems like salaries are the only things that don't inflate.
So the squeeze is on, right?
But your home value has.
Your home value has. So this is the challenge. So we all want our assets to appreciate. It's a good thing. You want your home value to appreciate. What you don't like about that is it often returns higher property insurances and taxes, and the squeeze is on for your income that's being compressed in all different ways. So why the attention on property taxes is because people really are hurting. People really are hurting, and generally just with general inflation, including the inflation in your taxes and your insurances for your property. So people look to local government to try to fix it. The challenge with that is, well, all the expenditures for local government has also gone up. And I will tell you, and I didn't know if I knew this to the level that I know now when I first entered into county government. County government is very lean. We operate very lean. In fact, in 2014 and 2015, there was a campaign against county government from the public to quit the cuts. They'd cut so deep into county government that they couldn't even operate efficiently. And I told you what I walked into is staffing, just how lean staffing was. So there's not a whole lot to cut at Sedgwick County government. And that's what the people take what they see at the federal level, and they try to put it over the local level and say, well, the federal government needs to cut, you need to cut too. There's wasteful spending here. There's not, man. There's really not I can speak for the city of Sedgwick County. I can't speak for any of the cities. I can tell you there's not wasteful spending. Let me give you another example of the efficiency of Sedgwick County government. 106 counties in the country have a AAA bond rating with Standard & Poor's. Sedgwick County is one of them. We've had 4 years in a row of perfect audits. That is unheard of in local municipal governments. Johnson County, 80,000 more citizens, so not a whole lot more citizens than we have. Their budget, $1.9 billion. Sedgwick County government budget, with significant more public health and public safety challenges here, $600 million. 3 times less.
Why?
Wow.
Because we do better with our dog. We don't overtax here.
Wow.
We simply do not overtax here. 3 years I've been in county government, we've lowered the mill levy all 3 years while also investing in stabilizing workforce with better outputs, because it can be done. You can actually accomplish both if you take a reasonable approach to these things. We can lower mill levy, and we can actually stabilize and have better outputs with the services. I'd like to say it's because I took a business approach to some of these things, and was able to convince my colleagues to come along with me. But they're great. I've worked with great colleagues. Pete Meinster, I think he's been on your show before.
Yep.
That's my dog, man. I love me some Pete Meinster.
We were down in Tuscaloosa this weekend, Pete and I.
Yes, that's right. He told me all about it. Oh, Pete's a fun guy to hang out with. Man.
Oh, yeah.
You want to find Pete, at 4 o'clock, he holds a public town hall at Dino's every single day. Pete, my boy Pete Meinster.
That's hilarious.
That's my guy.
hilarious you brought that up. We're well aware of that fact.
Oh, yeah. I love Pete. He's a great business guy as well. I work with Commissioner Jim Howell. He's in his 3rd term. Jim's a great commissioner. He represents his district very, very well. He also served in the state legislature. His wealth of knowledge. Stephanie Wise is new. Jeff Bluebar new. They're wonderful. We got a really good team at Sedgwick County government. So we've worked hard to stabilize workforce while also not capturing all the assessed value growth and lowering mill levy to provide some sort of relief in the 20% of the property tax bill that we manage.
How does the county or whoever is assessing property tax, how do they assess it on an individual by individual basis? How does that get done?
Great question. It's very complicated. So the appraiser, the county appraiser, we hire the county appraiser, but we don't mandate the operations of the service. That's managed by the state. So this is, of the 46 departments of Sedgwick County government, 16 of these departments or services we just manage on behalf of the state. Think about the tag office. Think about, that's a state function. The treasurer manages on the local level. The elections, that's a state function we manage on the local level. Appraiser's the same thing. He actually works for the Kansas Department of Revenue. He doesn't work for the county commission. We just fund his budget. So how they do that is they look at a property, gets appraised every year, and they look at sales comps in the area, the sales data in the area to determine market value, and they look at upgrades on the property. They look at things like that to determine a valuation, and most of it is formulaic. I will tell you, the state thinks that Sedgwick County undervalues our properties. And you may look at that and say, you're kidding me. Like, we've seen such valuation growth in your property over the last 4 years. I think 4 years ago it was plus like 12%. 3 years ago it was plus 11%. Last year it was plus 8 or 9. And this year it was plus 8. Valuation growth. That's significant growth over 4 years. And the state still thinks that we're undervaluing property here. And here's the example that they use. 2024, there was about 4,400 residential transactions in 2024. Were real estate transactions. 4,100 of the 4,400, so 90, I think it's 94%, sold over the county valuation. So people are like, my property, I can't sell my property. Well, 94% sold for over the county valuation. So the state looks at that and says, you guys are undervaluing property because everything, and we all know people that sold property, particularly in 21 and 22, the day they listed their house, they had multiple offers and they all sold it for. So the market was really red hot, and that's why valuations increased the way they did. But sales data and sales comps are the biggest catalyst that the appraisers use for establishing valuations.
Yeah, I was looking for a house, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Is my wife and I were house shopping, and we didn't know we couldn't afford.
Yeah.
Was another thing. So they're trying to get you with these 0% down, blah blah blah, all this bullshit, and it was the best thing for me to go through that learning experience. But going through that and realizing how expensive houses are, when I hear the complaints of property taxes, it just turns me off so much, because I'm like, you bought this thing in 2015 for $300,000, and 7 years later you're selling it for $400,000.
Yeah.
Get out of here with your tears about property taxes.
Yeah, I get it, man. And that's the thing, is we want our assets to appreciate in value. The greatest asset and the greatest way to generational wealth for most people in America is through home ownership. You buy a house, you hold on to a house, you create equity in a house, you pay the thing off in 20, 30 years, and you have an asset that's increasing in value. That's a good thing. You want your assets to appreciate in value. The challenge is when it's tied to taxation and insurance, and people are experiencing inflation in other areas, it squeezes them, man. So I get it. I totally get it. But if we don't have property taxes, how do we fund local government? That's the question. Is how do we, the sheriff's office and the jail and EMS and 911 and things like the Forensic Science Center that looks at toxicology reports and does all the research and does the science on rape kits and gives this to district attorneys who then go to the courts. This is all funded through property tax dollars. These are important things that we do. So you know what the solution to all this is? Great stewardship from elected leadership and growth. We have to grow. We grow the economy here. It lowers the base. It expands the base and lowers the tax burden on the individual. We've got to grow here. So that's the balance, is how do we grow? How do we grow while maintaining effective and efficient taxation that is reasonable for people and not pricing people out of their homes?
With experience on both sides, is there anything you wish government would also take from the private sector?
Oh, buddy. Yeah, man. You know what? I think the biggest thing, innovation. I'll give you an example. The tag office has been in the news a lot. You know what there's two big challenges with the tag office. One of them is just that personalized plate, state statute says that in years that end in a 0 or 5, every 5 years, anybody with a personalized license plate has to go do an in-person renewal at the tag office. It's stupid. It's so silly to me. So in 2024, there was about, I think the number was 3,100 in the whole year personalized plate renewals. This year, through October, there was over 19,000. So you're talking about long lines at the tag office. It's like, what the hell? Like, that's stupid state law is requiring in-person renewals with paper titles still, instead of the rest of the country that's doing digital titles. It's so silly. But I'll give you the biggest example on innovation. And at the tag office, 105 counties in the state of Kansas, all 105 are on one server for the Kansas Department of Revenue that fails 3 to 4 times a week.
Wow.
Goes down and crashes 3 to 4 times a week. One server, 105 counties, all doing their tag office functions on one server at the Kansas Department of Revenue. It's silly. The appraisal, we talked about valuations. Do you know what we have now in technology and how we can do value? We're still sending appraisers to go and evaluate property with their eyes instead of using drone technology or GIS technology and some of the things that we have today, satellite technology.
Privacy.
Yeah, that's part of it, certainly. But there's just this big conversation about how do we innovate some of these things and some of these systems to make them more efficient and productive. So I think if there's one thing that I would love local government to do, we've got to push for reform. And the biggest catalyst for reform many times is innovation.
That's a great answer. Based on your experience, what does Sedgwick County need to continue to do to help small businesses?
Get out of their way in many regards. I mean, that's the biggest thing. When you look at...
Get out of their way in what do you mean by that?
Onerous burdens of permitting and taxes and things of that sort. The biggest thing that we can do, there's two things. I say that jestfully, I kind of sheepishly to stay on point with cheap sheep. The stay out of the way, I mean, for example, permitting fees. So those that are in real estate or in home building, things of that sort. There's just so many fees and so many regulations they have to comply. When you think about that, it's just ticking up the costs. And here we are in a affordable housing crisis, and we got to strip down as much cost as we can so the product can get delivered to the end user more competitively. That's part of it. If getting going out and doing anything in regards to the permitting of MABCD or lot splits or things like that, or buying property, there's like a 60, 90-day process you got to go through with planning and conditional use permitting and things of that sort. We just got to strip out some of these regulatory things that are really burdensome for business. And in the end, not only do they take time, but they take money. So that's part of it. The other thing that we have to remember when we think about what makes businesses thrive, well, there's different types of businesses. We have manufacturing, and manufacturing is going to need a workforce pipeline. So how are we preparing our kids to walk into the jobs, like the aviation jobs and the things that we do here? How do we prepare them to excel? We have ideas there around workforce centers and future-ready centers, but 82% of the kids in UST 259 live under the poverty level. It's a real challenge to where they're not even thinking post-secondary education many times. They're thinking about how do I get a job and pay my bills? So you begin to think about the type of industry. Medical, do we have the research here and the resources here and the collaborations here for a thriving medical field? But ultimately what we need to remember is if you want to stay here and raise your families here, and if we want to compel you to stay here, this is a great place to raise a family and have a healthy family, then we need to understand what's the housing market like here. How are you able to get into a home younger? It used to be when I was growing up, when I got my first home at 26 years old, the average age of the first-time home buyer today is almost 38 years old today for a lot of different. That's a real challenge when we just said that the greatest way to generational wealth is through home ownership. It's a real problem. How are our schools here? Do you want to raise your kids in these schools? So it's actually the quality of life things that we have here is, do we have great schools? Do we have great housing inventory at low cost? Do we have safety in our communities? Do we have some of the amenities like a great zoo and great parks and some of these things? These things matter for people to say, I want to raise my family here. I want to start and raise my family here. Do we have jobs here and an abundance of jobs that are good paying jobs? That's the greatest thing we can do for the entrepreneur is have an ecosystem that's working well and is causing people to want to move here, stay here, and raise families here. That's the greatest thing that we can do. As a policymaker, I talk a lot. I encourage all my friends that are running for governor right now. Every policy they talk about, they need to somehow have a tie to healthy family. You got to have a connecting link. Tax policy, how does it impact healthy families? Health policy, how does it impact healthy families? Education policy, draw the link to healthy families because that's what keeps thriving communities is healthy families. And you got to be able to tell the story about raising your kids in this community, raising your family in this community, starting your business in this community. Here are the reasons why you should and why you should stay. So that's the biggest thing for an entrepreneur is have a healthy economy surrounding the entrepreneur that can fuel its business.
The healthy family that's a perfect answer. And I think that even can loop back to the homelessness problem.
Bingo.
I think a lot of it, and it's such a macro issue and there's many different paths they went on to get to where they are, but I bet more than likely they come from a broken family or the father's not around and those sorts of things. And I think the healthy family is the answer to
you could tie crime to that too.
Absolutely, man. And you can get upstream in some of these conversations. I'll give you the prime example that weighs on my heart heavily is the foster care system. We have an immoral foster care system in the state of Kansas. And just in Sedgwick County, we have about 1,500 kids in the foster care system. 70% of these kids will have a touch point in the criminal justice system. Only 45% will graduate high school. And 1 out of 3 will end up homeless if they age out of the system within 2 years. And it's like, okay, so we have all these resources going into the foster care system. What if we were to get upstream and try to keep families together? 45% of all out of foster care placements are coming from an issue of neglect, not violence or not child abuse. Or we got to remove kids if there's violence or sexual violence or things like that. But many times it's moms working a couple jobs, leaving kids at home. There's truancy. There's not a dad in the home. You can't legislate those kind of things. So it's like, how do we put resources upstream to keep families intact before they enter the system to begin with? That's some of the conversations I'm having. But when you talk about families and keeping a health in a community, I think if you squarely focus bullseye on the foster care system, you can divert 45, 45, 50% of the problems if we just fix that system alone, because the outputs of that system are what's creating a lot of turmoil in our communities.
Just as a person, not even with the current job you have, what do you think some solutions are to trying to keep the family together, even if it's in a different state, just as people? What are some of the solutions you think that would help keeping the family together? Because I really do believe that is the root of so many problems, and it's just hard. It's hard to detect if you're not looking for it.
Yeah, and let me just also say that government can't solve that problem. Government can't legislate heart issues in many regards. If you look at the single-parent home data now, it is appalling how many kids are being raised in single-parent. And I'm not saying that, hear me, what I'm saying. I'm not saying that someone raised in a single-parent home is destined for failure. I'm not saying that, particularly with women that are single moms, these are heroes, man. They are doing the hard work.
No doubt.
I would tell you that there's an indictment on men in society today. American men are failing families in many regards. I can't, there's no policy that fixes that. I think that many men have lost identity. They've lost purpose in many regards. I think the faith community has a big role to play in this, and fellowship and discipleship and teaching men to be men. I think that's a big role in this. I think that if you have to look at the institutions of the family, the faith communities and government, they all have their own roles, but they all have an impact on what society and what we're seeing in society today. So that's a big part of it. Is I think the financial pressures are significant for people. I think the mental health pressures are significant. I think the addiction pressures are significant. We have an education problem. If you look at the number of kids in the 3rd grade that are not reading proficient, and that is that foretells so much of future academic success, is 3rd grade reading level, things of that sort. So many of the problems we're facing in society today are because of failing families, and that's not a government solution. That's more of a faith solution and a network solution and a community solution.
I heard a crazy statistic that the moment a male child loses a male role model, they are more likely to be incarcerated than they are graduating college.
True. It's true.
That is wild.
It's the role of a father. And I'm lucky because I have a great dad who has always been in my life and is still in my life today and is a mentor of mine. But I have cousins who didn't have that. And I get to see my trajectory in life and their trajectory in life in the same family. And it's the role of a dad. Now, that's not the solve all. I'm not saying that's the solve all. But how do we reverse dangerous trajectories or slow dangerous trajectories that we're on? I think the role of fathers is a big role in this, has a big play in this. And it's an indictment, man. We have a lot of dads abandoning families today, or not being the dads that they're being called to be. Now, that's a theological worldview, not as much a political worldview. But I think the data would prove it to be true.
I think you're exactly right. I do want to touch on this.
Yeah.
So you're a 3-time All Big 12.
Was. Yeah, this is past tense, brother.
Sure. Sure. And
You mean you couldn't strap it up today and go do that?
No chance.
3-time All-American too?
One. I was one All-American.
Oh, one time.
Yeah.
And then you played for Tampa Bay for a little bit.
That was with the Rays, yeah.
Wow. So what year was that? That'd be early Rays days.
Yeah, that was still Tampa Bay Devil Rays. That was 2004, 2005. And then I had a 97-mile-per-hour fastball hit me right behind my ear against the Toronto Blue Jays. And that was the first of 3 major concussions that I got in about a 6-month time period. So I did what every kid wants to do, man. I went from being a professional athlete to being a mattress husband, man. It's and I'm a real beast. I'm a strange species. I'm actually a washed-up athlete, mattress selling, preaching politician, man. Like, I'm a weirdo, but that's who you got hanging out tonight.
How about the career path?
We've had worse hanging out. Don't worry.
Oh, that's funny.
How about that?
I've been blessed, man. I look back, and the baseball days, it's more like a dream than it is like a haze. It feels like a different life.
Were you on the same teams as like Evan Longoria and BJ Upton?
Yep, BJ. And Evan was after me. I'm 2 years older than Evan.
When did they make the World Series run back in those?
Was it 2008?
Yeah, 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was early.
Pre-Royals run, but
Yeah.
BJ Upton was the real deal, man.
He was a baller.
Yeah, he was a bad boy. He was
had
the
a
number
great
one.
career.
He was the number one draft pick the year before my draft class. 2003, I was a junior, and I got a call from the Rockies for the 6th round. They called that morning, said, I'm going to take you in the 6th round, and got the family together, called Coach Price up at KU and said, hey, Coach, I'm going to call Rockies call. They're going to take me in the 6th round. The money's going to be right. I'm not coming back. He said, big time. We knew it was going to happen. Best of luck. We love you. We're here to support you. Got the family around, draft day, everything comes, 6th round comes, Colorado pick, and they take the first baseman from Mississippi State. No, I completely out of nowhere. Didn't know what was happening, didn't know what was coming. My agent calls, he goes, I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, what the hell? And he goes, well, what's next? And I'm like, I said, well, who's anybody else calling? He goes, yeah, we got everybody's willing to call. 10th round, the Braves called or had some inquiry, and the money wasn't right. And I was the first of 30-some people in my family to graduate high school, much less go and get a college degree. So that was important to me. So I said, the money's not right. It's not going to change my life. And so I said, I'm not going to sign. I'll go back for my senior year. And went up to Cape Cod League for the summer, played in the Cape Cod League, and came back my senior year, had a good year my senior year too. Was a preseason All-American, had a good year and loved it. And then I signed a free agent deal with Tampa Bay because I was out of eligibility, and I was over 21, so I didn't have to wait for the draft. I was able to pick my organization, really. Tampa Bay was a great fit. It was another life ago, man. My wife, I didn't know my wife then. My kids never knew me as a baseball player. It just feels like another life ago, but those days are so special, man.
What a cutthroat business that is. They call you, tell you they're going to take you, and then they take somebody else.
They called me at 8 a.m. and said, we're taking the 6th round. This is the money we're going to offer. You're going to sign? I said, yep. So so we committed.
Right.
To them, and then I could have taken other opportunities, other offers, and the 6th round come. They didn't even call me to tell me they're not taking me. And that's not where cutthroat, that's just where it begins. You get in the organization in the minor leagues, man, somebody's ready to take your job every day. But that's needed for a young athlete to develop, to know that someone's going to take my job unless I perform, man. I got to work. I got to show up. I got to work, and I got to perform. Those were great skills that were developed in sports that were applicable for me in business and now even in politics, man, is you've got to perform and you got to show up and you got to do the work and you got to prepare. Someone's going to take your job.
Wow. You have a great story,
Thanks,
sir.
man.
It's been a real treat to meet you and get to sit down with you.
Yeah, this is fun. I appreciate you guys doing podcasting, man. Long form journalism. We need more communication, not less. I'd encourage you. Keep going, man. Have some fun with it.
I actually enjoy your show. I caught the one with Katie Tyndall. That was a good episode.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I have my own podcast called Common Sense, and we just talk. But just bring business leaders and political leaders and community leaders in the room. We just talk through things and conversations that I have basically. In private many times. I want those to be public conversations, so we have those on that podcast. I love long form journalism. I said talk for hours about things, man. But the community needs more communication, not less.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time. I did want to leave you with one more. What does success look like 5 years down the road for Sedgwick County?
For Sedgwick County, it's back to health. It's about the health of a community, and I don't mean just public health. I mean the health of a community economically, to where we have, when you look at job opportunities, that we're in a good place with job opportunities. We have growing industry here. We have a homeless population where we see reverses in the trajectory we're on. Same thing with the foster care community. We have healthier families. The education outcomes are improving. The opportunities are improving. But we have downtown Wichita booming with more cranes in the air. I mean, I think that's healthy economy, and I think that's healthy business. So we look at Sedgwick County. I think the health, what does success look like is we have great staff that is stabilized, performing great services, meeting all our KPIs and our outputs, and we're doing it at the least possible cost to the taxpayer. That's good government, man. That's good government.
Love that.
Yes. And I mean this with the utmost sincerity. I think Sedgwick County and Wichita is in great hands with people like you in government.
Bless you, man. I appreciate that. I'm grateful for that.
It's been great to meet you. You have anything for us?
No, man, I just wanted to encourage you guys. Keep going, man. Keep rolling. Because this stuff is needed. Bring the people and have the conversations. People that agree with you, disagree with you, just engage people, man. This is good. Keep it up.
I think so too. Well, thank you so much, sir. It's been a blast.
It has been. Bless you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.